insurance, and more.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Ask the Planman. Everything you want to know about finance, insurance, and more, but we're afraid to ask. I'm your host, Bruce Weinstein, and I have a belief that everyone should have a plan. Whether it's a financial plan, a retirement plan, a fitness plan, a travel plan, a business plan, and today's theme is about exit plans. Each week, we're going to bring you different topics to help you maximize your planning needs. Today, I'm sitting down with John Wetmore, managing partner with Integrity Marketing Group, which is one of the leading distributors of life and health insurance products. John has built a team of over 1,800 agents nationwide and recently sold and exited his business practice. Before embarking on his career, he was involved in accounting. In 2013, he decided he wanted to move in a different direction and have an impact on people's lives. Although he started his insurance career only 9 short years ago, his agency generated over $121 million in annual premium in 2021 and is exceeding $250 million this year alone. Congratulations on that, John. John now travels around the country supporting and mentoring not just his agents, but even agents from other companies. He's a very giving individual. We've known each other now for about 1.5 years. John, welcome to Ask the Planman. What I want to talk about today with you is about scaling a business and the preparation maybe required to exit a business and how your journey took place.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, I appreciate you having me on, dude. It's always good to hang out and see you, for sure. Yeah, we can go any direction with this thing. What's funny is a lot of people are chasing it, right? They want to go through this process that we went through. The funny thing is, I wasn't chasing that, dude. I was just trying to build a business, man. Help a lot of people get paid, help a lot of other agents make money. I had to obviously learn this business first, which was not the quickest. I wasn't the quickest learner, if you will, of sales or insurance by any means. And honestly, I don't know much about any other piece of insurance other than what I do. We do what we do and we do it well and we drive it deep. I'm not one of those agencies that sells 27 different types of policies, which I ain't mad at the ones that do. It's just not my deal. For us, I was just I looked at insurance as a way to have time and money eventually. When I got into this, that's what I saw, that we could build this thing. I could teach others to do it. I could scale, and I could then be able to make choices on what I wanted to do every day. And I didn't do this to build it to not work. Like someone put a post out the other day and was like, if you sold your business and you're still working, that's not really a sale. And I'm like, what? I don't want to not work. I'm trying to build cool stuff. I just thought it was so short-sighted and small-minded. For me, I'm still heavily involved in what we do. And I still love what we do. And I'm managing partner means I'm an owner of the whole thing. So I thought it was weird that some people think I would have slowed down when I own the whole. You know what I mean? I'm like, it's kind of weird. So, scaling and exiting means different things to different people. So we can talk about any piece of it, man. I can talk about any part of the journey. And I've helped multiple people get to that level. For those that it was on the radar for, it just kind of the opportunity presented itself to me. But for others, we've helped them build it. And I have several other direct integrity partners in my agency that I've helped get to that piece.
So let's rewind for a second, John. I've heard you speak, right? I've seen you up there. So my listener today may not know your story of origin. So let's just give a little framework on, the accounting. You talk about your struggles in the warehouse and getting involved in accounting and not having an early direction in, your younger years, and that eventually you recognize. So take us quickly through that path a little bit so people can kind of see where you got to. And then obviously for me, what's impressive is the explosiveness of once you found your why, where you took it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give a short version of the whole journey, if you will. I mean, I'm first of all, I'm in Atlanta now, but I grew up in Boston. So I'm a Boston city kid. Grew up in the hood just outside of Boston, Lynn, Mass, single teenage mom. I was born to, and on welfare, grew up in the projects, and my mom did a good job of getting us out eventually. But during that phase, I went and one-upped her, and I had my first child on the way at 16. Had my second, I believe, on the way at like 19 or 20. And I was working in a pizza joint right during high school. You know, in high school, I was paying daycare and changing diapers, so I had to get a job. I worked in a pizza joint for 4 years. Eventually went to a warehouse job that paid me much better than the pizza joint. And I was working third shift in a warehouse. And I always talk about like what I saw there was I was working with a lot. Most of the people there were older and had been there for a while. There's this like seniority play because it was a third shift deal. And the senior guys there, their goal was to get on day shift. And I saw guys, you know, 35, 40, 45, 50 years old, still working night shift, been there 15, 20 plus years. And all their desires in life were to get to day shift, man. And I remember going, this ain't for me. I ain't doing that for a future. And so that's when I decided to go to school. I went into accounting because I was good at math, not because I actually put any thought into it. And I worked full time, had 2 kids at the time, went to school full time to get first an associate's degree, got my first accounting job at probably 20, 25, 26 years old, something like that. Then I worked for the government in New Hampshire doing accounting work, making like 32 grand a year, something like that. Went to night school to get my bachelor's degree, also full time, and moved to Atlanta. Did the same job here in from Marietta, Georgia, the same city job, but in Georgia they paid 28 grand instead of the 32. So I got a pay cut moving to Georgia, and you know, I'd always wanted to do something different. I always thought I could. I've always had this little entrepreneurial spirit as a kid. I would sell stuff or paper routes, or I'd sell like arts and crafty type things to around the building I lived in, and I'd sell candy. I'd buy a bunch and sell it at school. I was always that kid, just trying to figure it out, man. Never had any direction with that. No entrepreneurs in my family. Dad wasn't really around. You know, he was there some, but he didn't raise. I never lived with him. He'd show up every once in a blue moon, but I didn't really have that in my world. No business people, come from very blue collar, broke, multiple generations, grew up in that same crappy area. And I love where I'm from, but people don't go if they ain't from there, you know. But with that, I always had desire to do more. I got into the mortgage business briefly because it was an opportunity. I got in like 06, 07 because it was easy to refinance people. So I was refinancing people in my accounting office. And that was my first taste of commission sales. And it wasn't really sales because at the time interest rates were like 2% and everyone said yes. So I decided I was going to start a mortgage company because the company that I was doing it for took half my commission for teaching me how to do it. And I thought that was pretty stupid. And this was pre like the regulation they have today. Pre-licensing, you didn't even need a license to be a loan officer at the time. There was almost no regulation relative, which caused the chaos. But I got into it, started my own mortgage company just in my basement. It wasn't like, you know, a giant fancy building downtown. It was just me saying I have a mortgage company. And I applied for the like $80 licensing fee. And all the people that I went to this little fake mortgage school with that they took half our commission, I decided to offer them 75% and take them with me. So that's how I just hired the people that I went to this class with. And I had about 8 or 10 people selling mortgages, and I was making a little spread. It was the first introduction to spread and growth. And I was like, this is cool. And then 07 came and whacked me. And I made money for about 9 months, and I decided to buy a big house I couldn't afford and a truck I couldn't afford and finance some stuff. And, you know, they took it all back, dude. I went through a bankruptcy, 2 foreclosures, had a car repo, divorce, all that by 30. And went back into the accounting world for 4 years, and I got a little taste, man. And I couldn't stop thinking about how can I do something bigger. And when I went back to accounting, I was probably between 30 and 35. I was making 40 grand a year in accounting, I was never CPA, like high level stuff, just corporate accounting. But the entire time I was trying to find something else I could do. I just didn't know what, man. I didn't have a path or connections. And one day, a buddy that I had hired from a Craigslist ad at the mortgage thing hit me up 4 years later, cold on Facebook. Of course, I knew him, but I hadn't talked to him in years. Hit me up on Facebook Messenger and was like, "Hey, dude, what are you up to? I'm sure you're miserable in your job because I know you." And I fell into this thing. This guy you remind me of, I think you might be interested in something. Hit me up. And it was insurance, man. And I was probably 30, 34, 35 at that time. And I connected with him at a local restaurant like Buffalo's. Most people have a Buffalo's around. So I went down to Buffalo's, and he kind of mapped out the insurance industry on a napkin for me and related it to mortgages. And there's a lot of similarities in the structure and commissions and kind of how it all works. And we were doing mortgage protection. So I was like, ooh, I get that, makes sense. I get that. And man, it just clicked. It made sense to me. So I went and I did it. I started doing it part-time. I had 5 kids by this time. So I'm 35. I have 5 kids. My youngest is about 9 months old, Maddox, remarried at this time. And, living off 40 grand a year, broke as can be still, paycheck to paycheck, old beat up cars, living in Stephanie, who I believe you met Stephanie. She had a home she bought when she was like in her early 20s, long before we had met. So I moved in with her to her house. So we had the 5 kids, 4 of them were previous. So they went back and forth. Maddox with her, and we were in this little 1,200 square foot house, man, trying to make it happen. And I'm doing accounting, doing insurance on the side for a year, and that was the start of it, dude. It just, and I was not good at it. It was in-home sales, so I'm going into people's houses, rough around the edges still. I didn't articulate things like what you see today. I was very, very different. I was unpolished as could be. Didn't really understand sales or people or communication well, but I was trying, man.
To your credit, and what I want the listener to really hone in on is John's sharing his grind. He's sharing that, telling us you don't have to come with the silver spoon and be a trust baby, that no matter where you're coming from, and that's the greatest thing about this country, is opportunity. And so you've heard this, I've said it, you've said it, is the 2 best days in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out your why. And so it took you that 30, 35 year period to sort through and figure out your why. And you and I have a lot of similarities and backgrounds. We don't have to get into all of mine and eat up the time, but single parent and paper routes and candy sales. I'm listening going, that was me. I'm just about 10, 15 years older than you. That's all. But, I did it in the 60s and you did it in the 70s. But what it does, what I feel, and again, we're using the lines from some of these movies out there. Salespeople aren't made, they're born. You have it inherently, and it took you a while for you to recognize, see, and polish that stone. And so the evolution for you, and again, kudos to you in that regard, is once you found that why, and that's what I want to talk about next with you, is how did you go from the broke as a joke, and the downward size, because that's a humbling process. And again, yours truly has been through it. And yet you persevered and you didn't give up. You didn't quit. You didn't find a crack pipe and you didn't put a rope around your head. You kept forging forward and you kept trying to figure it out. And that's what I think separates us from a lot of people out there is they quit. You don't lose till you sell, and you haven't lost till you quit. So there is no quit. And so once you got that light switch turned on, take us through that process where you literally went from negative, right, a negative net worth to, and you certainly don't have to disclose anything there. We know to be a very large sale and exit for your business. And you did that in a very realistically short amount of time. You weren't an overnight success. It took building blocks. So what I want to tie into the show is the process, if we can, on what scaling means and looks like, how you went about it. And then again, not that we need the intricacies of your exit, but more the strategies behind your exit and the execution, not the dollars and cents. That's nobody's business. But because therein lies the lessons. Because somebody who's building a business, the next FFLer or Symmetry or whoever's out there that wants to scale and exit, well, these are lessons you need to pay attention to. So go ahead, jump on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think early on my why has changed over the years. First of all, I mean, at the beginning, honestly, it was to be a provider for my family, because I had never been that. The first, obviously, X amount of years, it was what it was. And then when I married Steph, we've been together since end of 07. She had made more money than me for the first seven years, on her job. So she was really the provider, and and it wasn't extraordinarily different, but she was making more, and she had to help, with everything going on, kids and child support, all the stuff we had, the bills that we eventually combined. So at the beginning, man, my why was just to be a provider and to change that situation and be able to get my kids, like, I just wanted my kids to be able to sign up to a sport, man. We didn't even have them in anything. I hated having to tell my kids no. I wanted the choice to tell them no in the time that made sense, but I didn't want to have to say no all the time. And I didn't want to go to the grocery store and, like, when you swipe the card, especially when it used to take a little longer before they had the tap pay, you'd swipe it and it'd be like 4, 5, 6 seconds before you knew if it was approved or not. Yeah, like, you didn't make the noise, like, is it going to go through? Is it going to go through? That feeling. And I'm like, all right, sir, I've had to put groceries back before, you know what I mean? Like, all right, take out the Rice Krispies and put back the whatever, the Pop-Tarts, and let's just keep so I was trying to get out of that. That was the beginning why for me. And again, it took me a minute. I did sales for a year part-time. I did make more part-time selling insurance than I did on my accounting job, that 40 grand, but I was by no means killing it in the insurance space relative to what's out there, the people I was watching at high level. But again, my threshold was low, so I did well relative to what I had. But I still didn't have it like down where I felt like I was amazing at it, or I knew week to week or day to day. It was still felt very inconsistent and bumpy and rocky, and you get a cancellation, charge back. I was still getting frustrated, and I was just learning the ropes, man. But I did go full time just before 2014. Did 2014 for the first full time year, and I cracked 6 figures. Just barely, but I cracked it. And I started to sort of figure it out, and I realized, like, I was the main problem in most of it. I really started to, like, hone in on discipline of being self-employed, the consistency it took. I really started working on my skill set, my profession. Secondary to that, I think too many people try to work on skill set before they work on the discipline and the activity side. So I really started to kind of figure out the consistency and the numbers behind it. And I ran this many appointments. It equaled this many sales in the long run. Because I'd get frustrated during a day. I'd miss a sale. I'd get annoyed. I'd get canceled. I'd get annoyed. And I was trying to figure out how to not be annoyed with every moment and go, like, all right, over the next quarter, if I do this much work, what will it equal? I was trying to get there, and developed some great relationships and mentors during that 2014 year. And man, 2015 was my year, dude. It popped. I figured it out. I figured out that activity trumped all. That's why I teach on it like crazy. I decided to really hone in on the amount of activity. I started running twice as many appointments as I'd ever run. Crazy consistent. I didn't miss weeks. I didn't miss days. I got a schedule down, dude, and I stuck to it like a champ. And combined with the mentorship that I was getting, because I was doing the work, I started getting people that were willing to feed into me more and more. Dude, I tripled my personal income in 2015. I literally tripled my income. I was like, in 1 year. And man, I've never looked back from that.
Still on your own, not.
Yeah. I was trying to build.
From a scaling perspective. I just want to be clear.
Yeah, I was trying. When Jeremy drew out the business on the napkin, man, he did explain the building side. So I was trying to build from the beginning. I was trying to hire, and I was doing interviews. I was trying to get it out there, but I was so poor at managing other people that I didn't get any traction. The agents would come, and I interviewed and talked to hundreds and hundreds of agents the first couple of years, potential agents. I was running like Craigslist ads when I was part-time still, and ZipRecruiter ads and things like that.
But it didn't click for you yet,
man,
to really take off. And there's nothing better than demonstrating that you've done it, right? The people
I did a poor job of. I think you can still do it when you haven't done it yet, if you're willing to promote where people can get information and promote other people. I was trying to hoard them towards me, and I was trying to manage everything and micromanage the agents, and you know what I mean? I was putting my dreams and visions on them, on my expectations on them, and I wasn't listening. I wasn't asking questions. I wasn't really helping the agent. I was building so it would benefit me. That's the only reason I was interviewing people, so I could make more money. I wasn't trying to, and so during that process, man, when I really learned how to make money on my own pen at a high level, dude, my entire why changed then. And I had a lot of help, man. I had a lot of people help me and tell me the truth and the things I was bad at, what I needed to improve on, and the polishing. I had help with that, man. And so I learned.
I'm sorry, it's just a slight today. I don't mean to talk over you. It's the importance of coaching, right? It's why we worth Coach Burt. That's why I've been listening to books on tape since the 80s, and it's not everybody seeks that knowledge nor recognizes there's room for improvement. We have ego. Ego gets in the way. At a young age, we think we know everything, right? And then all of a sudden you're punched in the face. And so
it's hard to hear, man. It can be hard to hear.
You have to be humbled. You have to be receptive. So as you progressed on your journey, you remained open and allowed people to help you. And that I want to make sure the listener understands is like, if that's not you, you're just your own worst enemy, because you have to let others in. You have to put on a different pair of glasses and let somebody open up their perspective of you versus your perspective of you and see where there's holes to fix. Go ahead.
You know, one of my least favorite things on the planet is like when I go to my kids' baseball game and after they lose, the parents, the kids, the coaches blame the umps for losing, or the bad play, or the call the person made. It drives me insane. I'm like, if we pitched better and got enough runs, that wouldn't have mattered. You know what I'm saying? Like, control the controllables. And I had to learn that, man. And for me, I had a realization that I was the only one. I'm 36, 37 at this time when this is happening. And I've realized I'm the only common denominator in my entire journey. I'm the only one that's been there for the entire thing. And every time something went wrong, I was always trying to find external fault. Who did what to me to make it go wrong? Whose fault was it I didn't make a sale? The client said this, the lead did this, the agent did this, my mom did this, my cousin said this, the neighbor, the guy who cut me off, all the stuff was external. And one day, someone was like, and you read it a lot in books, it was like, dude, when are you going to own some of this stuff, bro?
That's right. My life definitely improved and changed when I stopped blaming her. I mean, as a young adult, and I come up with my own baggage, and there was a lot of external things that were just dumped on at a very young age. So it's easy to blame. Like I didn't give my mother cancer, right? I didn't have my father leave. Like I had nothing to do with that. It was dumped on me, and so it's easy to blame. But certainly, my career, my life, my personal happiness improved when I just kept looking in the mirror and saying, it's me. It's nobody else. I'm the only one who can fix it. I can only control me. I can't control John Wetmore, right? And so I got to control me. So where you found, we'll call it your aha, epiphany, is once you embrace that, look what happened, right?
Yeah, and even if you're not, even if someone else is at some level of fault, they did something incorrect, whatever it is, I still can look at it and go, how could I have done something different to maybe influence that piece? You know what I mean? And I started having this realization, but at the same time, I really started learning how to really control the income. I mean, I was at this point multiple six figure on my personal pen, and it was like, man, this is good. And
Which, John, it in fairness, most people would be extremely content with, right? If you're making, if you're saying $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year, coming from making 40 and worrying about credit card declines to now 10xing your income, the question is, what made you want even more? What drove you to say, you know what, I can still bring this even bigger? Where
I'm a dreamer.
Came from?
I've been a dreamer since I was a kid, dude. I've thought about, like, I just believe if someone else can do something, I can too. I just need your help with it. I just got to figure it out. And I've been a big dreamer forever, man. I can remember being a kid, and it's kind of like a joke, but it's kind of not. Like, one day I'm going to buy a hotel, only because I've been talking about it since I was like 10. I remember, like, long before, and this isn't political at all, long before Trump was president, he was obviously known for a real estate guy. And I remember one day as a kid going, if that Donald Trump guy can own a hotel, why can't I? You know what I mean? That's the way I've thought since I was a kid. So now I'm like, well, now I have to buy a hotel one day. You know what I mean? Just because.
Yeah. You got your
yeah.
You got your blue card with it written down.
Yeah. It's on the vision board, dude.
Manifest it.
So, for me, I've always been a bit of a dreamer, and I was around good people that were doing big things, and they continued to stretch my dreams and my vision. Other people chasing things. I started changing my circle, and that chase of things and that building something, that became fun to me. And, what I realized is there were people out there that gave to me when I was just an accountant part-time trying to figure it out, and people took time out of their day and their mental energy and their family to pour in to help me learn this thing. And I started changing, and I went, I actually don't need any agents. I'm doing just fine myself. But I actually want to give to people what was given to me. I actually want to help people get out of their situation. I want to help people change their kids' lives and their family situation. And that became the new driver for me, man. I wanted to see other people have success. So I started really slowing down and getting to know people, like kind of where they're at in life, where they were trying to go, and help them navigate their stuff. As long as they were willing to be coachable and do the things they say they're going to do, I'm big on communication. And I don't need someone to be amazing, but if you work hard and you're looking for something big, I enjoy guiding that person towards whatever path they're looking for. And I just got really good at communicating that message and helping people with their path versus trying to force them down my path, you know? And that was the initial start, man, was just if I started helping people get paid, that was my goal. It's still to this day. I talk about it with my staff still to this day. Our job is to help people get paid. Get paid what? Depends what they want. I want to help people achieve what they want. And it's not that I can't stretch them or challenge them with time, but step one is help them get where they want to be. You know, and that concept started getting some traction. And, you know, into 2016, 2017, I started building this force of agents, man. We got up to, you know, over the next between 15, 16, 17, I bet we got up to, I don't know, 100 plus direct agents in the agency, started selling. Not like we used to hear those people, like you said, 1,800 agents. I hear some people go, I got 1,800 agents and 32 sell. Like, no, 1,800 sold the policy last month. Like issued a policy, not submitted, like paid. So I started getting up to, you know, that 50 to 100 ball. That started happening around 2017. And then what happened? Go ahead.
Let me just jump in. So you went from personal production, you're pretty much killing it full time and doing those numbers. What would you guesstimate? You may not have the amount of time you back down to then put into the scaling side of the equation.
None. Yeah. See, that's the problem with most that are trying to scale. They want to stop selling and start building. I didn't slow down at all, dude. That was the attraction of it, is because I didn't stop for any agent. If you wanted to sell, I'm like, keep up. Come on, follow me. Come follow me. I wasn't like, hey, Bruce, you should go do this. Actually, I'm going to sit in my office and tell you and your friends and your family what to do. Nah, dude, I was like a player coach, bro. I was on the field. I was out there running. I was running my deal. And anyone that wanted to, you could follow along. I'd tell you how I was doing it. I'd coach you. But it was in between calls and sales. I was so busy on the phone, dude. I was on the phone nonstop because I kept running my full-time schedule for about three and a half years, dude. I ran full-time like a machine.
That's what I want people to know, right? Is you didn't go from one to the other. You kept doing both. You led by example.
I got forced out of the field. I was pushed out of the field. I had so many agents selling. I had so much happening. I would go, what got me out of the field, I knew at the end of 2016 I was getting out of the field. I knew, because one, I was making ridiculous money with that, whether or not I sold. And then two, I would go into a house to sit with a client, and dude, I would get 3, 4, 5, 6 phone calls from active agents in homes needing help on their sales. You know, and I was like, I literally can't keep up.
You can't do both.
I physically couldn't. I was one guy. I'm getting 1 million phone calls a week, and I just couldn't keep up. And I finally decided 2017 that I was going to literally exit the field and focus full time on building a business. That's when I hired my first staff right before I got out of the field. I built the initial structure with now Killimet, one of my mentors, he had a staff that helped do our contracting piece. So I had kind of like a staff-ish. It wasn't on my payroll, but she helped. The agency kind of did some of that piece. But for the most part, dude, 90+% of it, I was just figuring it out and doing it myself, man. And again, thank God he had some staff to take a little bit of burden off some of the back end paperwork. But I hired my first staff in 2017 and hired my second one in the summer of 2017. And I built this thing to from the 17 till the end of 2019. End of 2019 is when Integrity approached me and made an offer. We were doing about $2.5 million a month in production, paid production. I don't know how many agents we were at the time, 250, whatever, a couple hundred, whatever the number was, number of agents at that time, 300. Um, I did that with 2 staff. And the way we did it was, the short version is I just taught the model that worked for me. So we were hiring agents, and I was trying to identify people who stood out, because there's some people who just want to make a living selling. This is just like a job to them. There's some that are going to do it very inconsistent. There's some that will do it as a high-end sales, but then there's some who go like, can I do what you're doing, bro? Like, I want to build something. And what I've learned is, many of us trying to build, we try to make a certain agent that person. I go like, Bruce, you're my guy. You got so much potential. You're going to be the next one that's going to build. And what I learned is, like, leadership is taken, not given. And so I provided people opportunity. I gave the path, and I just watched for someone to take some form of leadership role. And when they started doing more of it on their own, and they stood out from the crowd, and you can identify those when you're not looking at everybody I'm just sitting back kind of like watching who does the most without me begging them to, who's helping the agency on their own, who's willing to help with training, who's giving back to agents. Just that you can see the guy who stands out. And so I started identifying those, and I'd go like, hey dude, come over here. And I'd start having questions about, like, do you want to build something? You look like you're trying to do more. Hey, can I help? And I found a few guys, man, and all of the systems, process, onboarding, recruiting, job ads I ran, staff ads I ran, the way I, set expectations with agents, new agent training calls, all the steps that I put in place to get that 50 to 100 agents. I started giving the exact playbook to the next person who wanted to do it. I'm like, here, do this. Until you can do it on your own and make something better, here's the playbook. And my staff would train their staff. We teach them to do the same calls I was doing, the same ads I was doing. They literally copy and paste it. And then another guy popped up, and I went, hey, here it is too. And then another guy popped up, and I went, here it is too. And then they started teaching it also, right? So now they're teaching that level of duplication, which allowed us to literally scale like crazy, because I wasn't the only one teaching it anymore. And I had a few guys who really stepped up in a big way, and they were like, I want to do it big. And I wanted to help them, man.
At the Epicenter, we've done some shows on franchising and the pros and cons. And one of the things you get with a franchise model is the cookbook, as you're describing, SOP, standard operating procedure. So what you're sharing with us is the way that you succeeded in scaling was you took your systems and processes and said, okay, Bruce, if you just follow this cookbook, you can have the same success. Now you got to go work it. You got to execute it, but I'm giving you the recipe. If you want to have the world-renowned sous chef, you got to follow the recipe, right? So John did that, and then you went from 50 to 100 to then having your own minions. You had people under you. This is the hardest part for an entrepreneur, is replicating yourself. And so you were able to find and identify 6, 8, 10, I don't know your final numbers, but you found people similar cloth of you that you could now replicate yourself. And then that's what they went out and do. And then it became explosive, right? You became 250 to eventually your minions are now 15, 1800, right?
Yeah. I don't know what minion means. It sounds probably meaner than it is.
Oh, sorry. That's a Jewish thing.
I gotcha. I don't know what that means, but I have amazing people on my team.
Yeah.
That's what we have.
Your followers, your believers, hey. Followers and believers. Although it's a cartoon, you should know minions with 5 kids.
I never heard of it. But we got amazing people. I'll say that. And some people want to step up. And what I learned is, man, some of these guys that stepped up, they were really good at things I wasn't. So they took the things that I put in place and they made them better. And now those are guys that I'm partnered with, and heck, I learned from them today. You know what I mean? And like, they add value to my world today. And there's a handful of us just running this thing together. And again, fast forward to integrity. I mean, they gave us a nice check, and we're still on board, and ownership in the company, and I'm still involved in the day to day. I don't do anything different. I still run like I was running then.
So let me ask you. So your exit may be different than maybe a person in manufacturing or other business. So we work with business owners. We have CFOs. We have business brokers. We help a business owner facilitate their exit. And a lot of times, just use manufacturing as an example, is the business owner is doing things certain ways, but their books are not being treated on the sale potential. Their books are being treated on tax avoidance potential. So you as an accountant can kind of get that, right? So, when you do certain things certain ways to avoid the tax person and the tax bill, it doesn't necessarily replicate the true value of the business. So it doesn't sound like this fell into your format there, but for those who are looking to exit a business, there should be a 2, maybe 3-year process to be working with the CFO and business brokers to identify the areas to improve. So maybe there were things you could or couldn't done. Again, your model and integrities might have been different in what they looked at. But what cultivated, obviously besides the check that they handed you, where did you kind of go, this makes sense for me to sell versus keep doing what I'm doing and getting even larger? You're not 60, you're not 70 years of age, you're barely in your 40s now. And so you did this really right around the age of 40, if I'm not mistaken. And so you got yourself to that point where now this new partner, integrity, came into play. And so what was that light bulb of like, do I or don't I? How did you process that?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because one, it was a surprise. You know what I mean? Again, it wasn't on the radar. It was like, holy smokes, what? Like you want to?
So you weren't looking. You weren't looking. They knocked on the
no.
door. And that's a nice.
No.
surprise.
Now, again, it happened at a FFL level first, so I saw like, oh, cool, that's neat, and you know what I mean. But it wasn't like on my radar ever, and that was only 6 months prior. You know what I mean? There was like this little window where the first time I had ever heard of them was when Sean started working with them at a corporate level. But we own our own book, and they were looking at our revenue and our cash flow and our EBITDA and our business individually. And for me, man, it was interesting because it's like, all right, what does the cash look like versus stock? And you know what I mean? And you kind of look at it as a short-term thing right away and go, well, I could make this, or what if I waited, I could get this, or you know what I mean? There's these weird questions. You try to look at all these angles. And honestly, yeah. And honestly, for me, man, it was pretty simple after I stopped overthinking it. Because I'm like, one, there's all these other partners who are involved. They're having definitely high level conversations that I'm not privy to or probably smart enough to even be in the room for. They believe in this thing like crazy. There were other very, very high end insurance companies involved prior to me even knowing about it. So I'm like, they're really smart. They must know some crazy good stuff. And the thought of being in business with some of the previous competitors, if you will, you know what I mean? And going like, there's enough money for all of us. One, there's enough agents all over the world. There's enough all over the country. There's enough clients all over the country. What if, do I have the ability to scale this thing by myself, John Wetmore and his 2 staff, the way Brian Adams and his 6,000 employees can? There's no chance. I just can't. I don't have that firepower, dude. I don't have that backing. I don't have the financial backing. I don't have an IT department. I don't have HR department. I don't have legal department. And as you get bigger, yeah, there's more money, but there's also more problems, and those problems cost a lot of money as you grow. And the infrastructure, we didn't have really infrastructure. I was making good money, but I didn't have infrastructure in a big level, So I'm looking at this thing and going, can I just do what I'm really good at? How can I just do what I'm really good at and contribute to a bigger vision, a bigger mission, and let them handle that piece? I don't know nothing about Medicare, dude, but I get a piece of it now. I don't know nothing about health insurance, but I get a piece of it now. Amen to the integrity head of healthcare and Medicare partners. Appreciate you. You know what I mean? I get to play in that playground now.
It's the sum of the parts, and it's the evolution of you scaled on one level, and now you're scaling on another level. I was going to interject. We used to know and work with a gentleman, he's now deceased, that was in the billboard industry. Okay, the drive-by billboards, stop at the Howard Johnsons, and his business got to a certain level, and he was approached by a very wealthy, famous individual now that made him an offer to come in and partner. And through the scaling, bringing in private equity, his 100% ownership wound up going all the way down to only 5%. Except his, couple $1 million business, when they finally got the company grown to the levels of exit, it was over a $4 billion transaction. So his 5% made him a billionaire. He's like, I'd rather have 5% of multiple billions than 100% of a couple of million, right?
Yeah.
And so
you see that on, go ahead, keep going. Sorry. Keep going.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, you see that on like Shark Tank a lot.
Exactly.
Where people nickel and dime them over 5%, and I'm like, Mr. Wonder, like he can 800x you in a couple phone calls, and it was the same concept, man. And I've been almost 3 years now, and unless you've been under a rock, you've seen what Integrity is acquiring over the last 3 years. I mean, again, I'm over here recruiting on Facebook ads, and Brian Adams is buying, PHP. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, that's recruiting, bro. And I didn't know how to do that on my own, and so I just wanted to be part of something bigger, something part of the industry. I just want to be a part of this ride, part of the journey. And I'm excited to be partners with other people. I don't want to be a one-man band, dude. And I couldn't, the value that this thing's brought in the 3 years I've been here. Now that I've made the decision, looking backwards, I'm like, there's no chance I could have done this on my own. There's just no chance.
And therein lies, the lesson of this, and the message I want people to hear is it's people helping people. Some people are selfish, some people are giving. We come from more of the giving side. That's why we're doing broadcasts and posts and sharings, right? Is you're helping lift other people up. You're helping people do better. Look, people can't help themselves, right? We all get in our own way sometimes. So having somebody reach their hand out and say, John, let me lift you up with me and take you there. So, again, it's commendable. And that's what's gravitated me to you. And I enjoy our friendship, and I hope to keep growing our friendship. But so I know you're working on some new things. So as our time's wrapping up here, why don't we just kind of jump on that a little bit? Tell us what you're doing now. You're launching some new ventures. You want to give us a quick shout on what that's about, and certainly we're going to put all your contact info in the show notes. But what's Learn More with Wetmore all about? Did I get it right? Is that the right tagline?
Yeah, that's my staff made that. I was like, that's pretty cool. I like it. I get them on to tell you what it's about. I don't know. No, I'm just, it's for me. I'm trying to impact the industry further. We've done a great job inside our little niche, inside our IMO world, and inside Integrity, sure. But there's a big sea out there, man. And there's a lot of people looking for opportunity, whether they're in the industry already or not, and I want to be a part of the industry, man. I want to serve people that are in this industry. What's crazy is with this stuff you're seeing, the Insurance Insiders thing I created, I don't have like a big master plan like a lot of people think. I'm just a guy about action. I know I want to serve the industry. And so I started putting together this concept of, having people that are giving people inside the industry resources from someone inside the industry, and that's there's plenty of people providing resources to us that aren't actually in the industry, and so I want to be a part of that the whole landscape, because I understand all sides of what we do in my world anyway. And I want to be able to bring resources and people and opportunity together in some kind of way. So I've started doing like a regular open Zoom, wide open Q&A, literally just me giving back thoughts I have for the week, whatever I got going on in terms of, helping agents or coaching or things I've seen that I just want to teach on. I'm like, let me do an open Zoom, wide open to whoever wants to get on and just serve and have an open Q&A. And then we're going to see where it goes, man. We're doing events and some training stuff. We have an event in Nashville coming up. It's free. I got some crazy speakers, coaches speaking at it. That Chuck McDowell's speaking at it. Joey Yak's coming. And certainly some players from inside our FFL world are speaking there as well. But it's wide open. And I'm really trying to get out there more and serve the industry as a whole, man. So that's the whole concept of Insurance Insiders. And you can find all this at johnwetmore.com. That's really where to go. That links to everything, all my social, everything I got going on. You can subscribe and register for whatever we got, all the events. And, I'm just going to see where it's taking me. And it's already led to some cool things
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to Ask the Plan Man. My guest, John Wetmore, today. If you want to talk more with John about opportunities, if I can help introduce you or other people, we were talking about the necessary, the importance, the infrastructure, how to scale your business, how to potentially exit out of your business, how to build a team. John shared a whole bunch of tips with us and his struggles to where he got himself out to a seven-figure cash out, maybe 8-figure, maybe 9. He won't tell us. Doesn't matter. He's enjoying life. But I want to thank you for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Bruce Weinstein. I'm the host of Ask the Plan Man. Please reach out to us, like, share, go on John's page, go on my page, share today's episode on your favorite podcast channel, YouTube page. Reach out to us at asktheplanman.com. You can reach me anywhere, anyhow, on social media through Ask the Plan Man. Again, if you need some advice, always get it right. Come Ask the Plan Man. John Wetmore, thank you so much. Continued success for you. Thanks for joining us today.
When you need some advice, never sacrifice, always get it right. Ask the Plan Man. Finance, insurance, and more.